All right, just so you know, we're broadcasting live on YouTube. So we're broadcasting live on the website. So let's see. All right. Hello, Erez. Hello, Katie. Okay, what else? Oh, there's Mike. Mike, you don't mind if I rename you with your call sign, do you? Just so people know who you are. There we go. You have to unmute yourself. Or I can do it there. There we go. Sorry, I'm just letting people into the window now, so it might take a minute before we really get going. All right. You know what? Let me grab my phone. Since my computer no longer boots up, I'm going to have to check on my phone to make sure we're actually broadcasting, which I can assume we are. Doug, we haven't seen you for a while. It looks like John is coming back in again. John, I see you are joining again. What's going on with that? Oh, just for audio? I don't know why, but I guess. Oh, I see. Okay. That's fine. I wonder if I can hide that window. Let me see. Erez, are you going to do video tonight? Because I'm thinking of hiding John's window, but thank you. It hides everybody who doesn't have video, so thank you. John, is that any better on that window? Gotta unmute yourself. Okay. Okay. So, greetings to everybody. Welcome. Thank you for showing up. I know we're probably all getting a little tired of Zoom meetings. It's such a nice 102-degree day or evening. Wouldn't it be nice if we could be in a hot room right now, enjoying a live meeting? Oh yeah, they all have air conditioning. Mm-hmm. It just takes about a half an hour before it starts to really cool down there. So it can be a little bit warm in there at first. All right, Tom, I don't know if you're on my list. So since it's past 7 o'clock, I have no idea what time it is. John took the battery out of my clock over here. Let's see. Why don't we introduce ourselves? Start with yourself, Tom.
My name Southwest Wisconsin. And I participated in the brotherhood. This year before the brotherhood, everybody said participated that way also. I couldn't make it. I just wanted to come on and drink
Good. Glad to have you here. And I believe you signed up. It was either this month or last month, if I'm not mistaken. I know we, right. Yeah. I think we announced you last month. So we're really glad to have you here. Welcome. And I think I emailed this to you. I'm the person that emails information, that page that said, welcome to the club, and here's all the things that you can do with us, including the bug roundup. Um, but one of the things that it mentioned in there, if it didn't, I think I sent it to you in a separate email, and that was as a club member, you have the opportunity to work as W6SFM/9 during the roundup. So, absolutely. So, if you want to actually be a W6SFM station come November, what will happen is you'll be able to sign up on our page when you go to register your station. There's a section that says, "Are you a member?" When you say yes to that, it opens up a whole other section that says, "Are you interested in operating as W6SFM?" And if you are, then you pick a day and a time slot that you're interested in, and that slot gets considered for assignment because, of course, there's no interactive spreadsheet where, not yet anyway, where you put yourself in that time slot and nobody else could take it. So what happens is you suggest a time slot that you'd like, and then after I get all of the people who've signed up about 3 days before, I go ahead and look to see if there's anybody who's interested in the same time. If there are, depending on where they are, you may have higher priority for earlier time because being 3 hours ahead, you would do really well for what might be 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning for us, and it's actually a comfortable time for you to be getting on the air. So I tend to prioritize the East Coast guys in this club with a little bit earlier time slots in the morning slash middle of the night for us, and early evening because we know that the sun's going down 3 hours earlier for you. So if you like that bug roundup, you can actually participate in it as a W6SFM/9 station. And there's only one W6SFM station on the air at any given time. So it goes from Friday evening from 0 Zulu to Sunday afternoon 0 Zulu. So in your time zone, our next one would be 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. Friday to 7 p.m. Sunday. If, well, you can select it. The selections on the website when you do the sign up are in 2 hour slots. So, if you wanted to make a note saying I'd like to work 1 hour instead of two, you can. But the sign up slots are placed in 2 hours at a time. So 12. Yeah. If you want to check it out, you can go to the register page and actually do it like your registration. You don't have to actually complete the. You can just poke around in that section where it says "Are yes," and then check out how that works. So yeah, definitely, please please do that because of course. Being a W6SFM station, you're going to work more operators because people are always chasing the W6SFM station. And then, two, you're closer to East Coast stations that you'll be able to give an opportunity to have QSOs with W6SFM where maybe they, on bad condition days, they wouldn't be able to hear us on the West Coast. So you're actually right. Well, I'm told in November. I'm told in November that the solar cycle is going to be at about 95. So, uh, we're going to have a solar flux of 95, and you're going to be getting Europe pounding in all day and night. So you'll be in the perfect spot for working Europe all day and night as W6SFM. So we'll sign you up for 12 hours. Maybe not. All right, yeah. So check that out, and thank you to everybody else who signed up as a W6SFM station. That's always helpful. It's really easy when we have 6 and 7 guys, 8 guys signed up because with 2 hours each, that's 16 hours out of 48 right there. Um, so this, I believe, I don't have the spreadsheet open because my computer won't boot up in the back here. Um, but it's in the cloud. Yeah, it's in the cloud. So I don't have that spreadsheet open, but we filled up all but I think we filled up all but 4 hours out of 48 with everybody volunteering. So we did really well, keeping the bands going. And I think I worked from 1 to 3 in the morning on Saturday night and Friday night, and I actually worked. Let me let some people in here. I actually worked 2 or 3 stations in the middle of the night, including I think I did 1 or 2 Japanese stations at 2 o'clock in the morning. So there's still activity out there. That's good. Hopefully the other guys here. I haven't looked at everybody's um, logs. If you haven't turned in your log, by the way, we do ask that you keep a log as a W6SFM station because if I could find it, computer probably. Where did it go? Well, that's not going to be very good. I have some QSL cards that got sent to us. Oh, here they are. So speaking of this, perfect segue. NI0C sent a QSL card so that we could QSL back to him, and he basically just says thanks for the QSO and the bug roundup. It doesn't say what he was operating, but he's got a picture of a. It looks like a lightning, and then KN6GFG. We got a QSL card from him, and he says thanks for the best. Thanks for the QSO. Best of luck. Bug roundup. Hope to see you again. And that's Jim, I believe. Let me see. Oh, Aaron. Sorry, Aaron, and both of these people, of course, we will answer with our W6SFM QSL card, which looks like this. Let's see if I can get it to. It's probably not going to work because it's going to green screen it, but there's our W6SFM card. Most of you have seen it already. And of course, it's your standard card on the back that gives you all your information about, the contact. There's even a QR code up here in the corner where you can scan that with your phone, and it'll bring you to our home page. So if anybody needs a W6SFM QSL card for some reason, if they've worked as W6SFM and somebody, yeah, or, yeah, if somebody QSLs and they send us money for a return stamped envelope, we always give them their money back. We don't require anybody to pay. But what Art is referring to, for those who weren't at the meeting, we had a Japanese guy send in $2 for a stamp for us to return his QSL card to him in Japan. And what we did was I went and got a fresh $2 bill, which is pretty rare for most people here in this country, but even more rare in Japan. And we sent a nice crisp $2 bill back to him instead of his $2 that he sent to us along with his QSL card. So I'm sure he enjoyed that a lot to see that. And of course, when we have an in-person meeting, we can all sign the QSL card and send that out to him. So I think what we're going to do is hopefully our July meeting will be in person back at the church in Carmichael. And when it is, we'll get 2 QSL cards from W6SFM. We'll fill those out and get them off to these 2 people. So they will wait a little bit, but it won't be any worse than just going through the bureau. At least they're not waiting 3 years. So, all right, Art, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody so that people online here know who you are. Don't forget. A 17 meter, 18 megahertz. 17 meter, 18 megahertz. Yeah. Where was the TISA? Yeah. Yeah. Tom, if you need to put up another antenna, Art will drive out to your place there. All right, Bob, PGQ. Yeah, there you go. PGQ, go ahead and introduce yourself. Thank you, Bob. And then, Kate, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I see you there, Katie. You Okay, I'll call you Catherine. How about that? That's what you put there. Oh, I can do it if you want. Are you YCO or YCP? Okay. Oh, are you back home now, or are you back home, or are you? Okay. And you're all healed up now, right? Okay, good. Good. All right. Well, great. Glad to have you here. Cliff is going to be a new member. Cliff, he filled out his application for membership. I don't see Chris here, but John is here. John is he'll introduce himself, and he's our vice president. So there's 2 of the board members here. I think we can safely say that we approve uh, Cliff's application for membership. Yes, John. You can nod if you don't want to. You hear me, John? Nope, John. Oh, all right. Well, I'm sure he says yes. So, where did you go? All right. Well, he'll come back. In any case, so Cliff, go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Yeah, we're going to hopefully start that in-person class here soon. As you know, we were supposed to start on April. Actually, it's good news for you. We were supposed to start on April 15th, I think, or 14th, something like that. And of course, the church shutting down because of the virus, they uh, haven't opened the campus yet. But as soon as they do here, I've actually sent an email on Monday asking them when we'll be able to get in there, both for in-person meetings and for the CW class. What's happening is the church session is meeting today or tomorrow, Friday, and they're going to start making some decisions on who can come back and when. This also includes field day, which we'll talk about. We'll mention field day and what's going to happen with that, or we'll ask you about it. And so hopefully that CW class will start. The CW class will also be held on Zoom for the very first time. I had planned to make it a YouTube broadcast and uh, just do a one-way broadcast as opposed to a two-way communication. But now with the ability to do Zoom and having it so simple, and a lot of people know how to use it now that we've pretty well been forced to, for most of us, for different reasons. I think that I might open it up to Zoom so that those who want to take the class from outside of the area, I'm not going to offer it to people inside the area, but from outside the area, we'll be able to do a Zoom class. Thank you, Art. And they'll be able to interact with me during the class just as if they were there. So we'll see how that goes. We've had over 450 students go through the class and complete the course. And I've never had anybody who took the course, completed it, and didn't, at minimum, at least learn the Morse code. Unless they did the work at home for about 10 minutes a day for the 10 weeks that were in session, they've all been able to do at least 8 to 15 words a minute leaving. It just really what you put into it is what you get out of it. So I'm excited to get that going soon. So I'll have information on that from the church here, hopefully by Monday, to see how the schedule is looking, and with our third phase of the church opening, who they're going to let back and when. We're a relatively small group, so I don't suspect that we're going to have issues meeting there, being that typically we have between 13 and 15 people. That doesn't seem to be too much. And worst case scenario, if they are concerned about social distancing, we have other places we could use. There's the gathering hall downstairs from where we normally meet in that courtyard area, not the courtyard room that we used to meet in for those who remember it, but the large room. And then there's the Macmillan Hall, which is the large recreation room, which holds about 500 people. So setting up tables, we could each have our own table for a meeting if we really wanted to do it. So if that's a concern with the church, then we'll get around that. So Mike, let's K6LQ, if you want to introduce yourself to the group, then let's let everybody hear about you so they can be introduced to you.
License in 1967.
Thank you, Mike. Hopefully you're doing well as well. So let's let's move over to Doug. If you want to introduce yourself, please, Doug. Oh, it's the Nano. Yeah, the Nano. That's kind of interesting. I'm going to skip over to Carol because I know, Carol, you have a Nano also. Uh, did you see his pretty Nano box? I have a Nano as well, and mine never came in a pretty box like that. Did yours? Oh, no audio, Carol. Make sure your mic is on. You are unmuted, but we don't hear you. Nope. All right. Well, work on that and then come back, and then we'll get back to you to introduce yourself. See if you can figure it out. You can interrupt us at any time if you want to test your mic. All right. Let me just skip over to David. Oh, there you are. Hang on, David. Carol, go ahead. And introduce yourself if you would, Carol. Thank you, Carol. And you're still with the ARRL, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't hear you mention that. So excellent. Thank you, Carol. Before I forget, anybody who knows me knows I have a 5-minute memory. Cliff, you upgraded your license, as you said, and I believe you told me in an email that you did that through a Zoom meeting. Is that correct? Yeah. Who offered that in Zoom? Okay. Yeah, that's something. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on. Oh, that's really cheap. All right. Yeah, that's something that we're considering as well during this time. Is most of the people in this group are uh, authorized to do examinations under the VEC program. We're actually members of the group up in Chico, the Gears program, and I believe David and I were talking about possibly doing Zoom examinations, which I think would be easier for this group as opposed to having to get together on Saturday or something. We could easily do a Zoom where everybody's at their own place and do that. So now I see W6GTS. I don't believe that's the call that I met you at. So that's your new assigned call letter.
already just took it back to that.
So I assume you chose that because they would have never given you a W6 call otherwise. So there's no specific reason for the GTS, or is it? It is okay. I thought so. I thought so. It took me 2 years to figure out what CIM was. So I finally saw in a marathon with a T-shirt that said CIM, and I was like, oh wait a minute, he runs. So yeah, slow to the swing there, but or to the throw. But yeah, that's actually a good call. It's actually very catchy for CW. So you picked a good call. It'll be easy for you to send and to remember. One of the things that I do in my classes, I always tell people you've got to be able to send your own. So um, we'll get into that, but you'll want to actually learn your call sign. Let's move over to Eras and have you introduce yourself as well, if you would, Eras. Let me see. Thank you, Eras. Appreciate it. And uh, Cliff, I know you said you got your 7300, and I know that Art and Eras both have, and I think Dale, you have one as well. We'll have Dale introduce himself, but I believe he has a 7300 as well. So there's plenty of people in the group that operate that 7300 that will be able to help you out with instructions if you need any tips or uh, anybody to give you some instructions on what might need to be done to operate that radio. So Dale, with that, why don't you introduce yourself? Thank you, Dale. And for those of you who are already aware, N6NA is a group that a few of our members are also members of. That's the River City Arcs group. They're out of, I guess that's North Highlands, if I'm not mistaken. And they're a good group. They actually have, I'm going to guess, about 80 something members, if not more. And they provide more um, VHF, emergency communications type of services. So whereas we're more uh, CW, HF, although they have CWHF operators there, like Carol is a member and an operator, of course, of CW, and so is Erez. They tend to be more focused in the voice stuff as opposed to the CW. So, but again, they don't exclude anybody, just like we don't. And you don't have to know CW or operate in CW to be a member of our group. Although it really helps because you can become pretty bored if you if you don't. If some of these things, especially if you go to an event with us, it's not an easy thing when you show up to the field day and there is no microphone to talk into, and you don't know code. Although I've had plenty of people who don't know code show up to our events and actually get on the air. I have a piece of paper that I provide that has the code, and if you can push a button, we can get you to send CW. At minimum, you'll be able to call CQ, and there are plenty enough of us to answer the CQ for you or get the information as you send out your information to them. So don't be shy if you don't know Morse code and we have an event. Do come out either way. All right, let's see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. As a matter of fact, something I tell people about CW is if you don't know how to spell, CW is the best thing ever because it's like texting on a telephone. You know, you can form a 3-letter word and it can be equal to a 15-letter word. So my spelling is the worst. The only problem that causes for me is I so want to spell the word right that it actually holds me up. It slows me down because my brain tries to think and my fingers keep wanting to go. So I actually uh, stop while I'm sending to think of the correct spelling. If I could just convince myself of what I'm telling people that I don't need to know how to spell because they'll understand phonetics, then I probably would easily be at 50 words a minute. So, speaking of 50 words a minute and spelling, let's move over to John. And John, go ahead and introduce yourself to the group if you would. Yep. Yeah, I'm sure once he takes the class, he seems like a really smart guy. I've met Cliff in person. He came by to get an analyzer, so we had a good long conversation then and before, and I think Cliff will do really well with the class, and CW seems pretty motivated too. So uh, I don't want to put too much pressure on him because who knows what might come up for, for for Cliff during the class. Sometimes people end up getting real busy and it gets difficult, but I have good hopes for Cliff and his abilities. So all right, let's see here. This would be normally about when we would take our break. David, do you have something you want to say? Go ahead. Oh, yeah, we're not going to allow that. Go ahead and explain to them what soda is. Maybe some of them don't. Yeah. It doesn't matter how long, it's going to be eternity. No, this is a perfect opportunity for you to introduce yourself, Chris, as you were. Maybe just a little history about yourself. And as far as or rather secretary goes, for those who are new to meeting Chris or don't know anything about him, Chris took a secretary position, and he is eternally going to be secretary. He's guaranteed at the club that until his in 5 days after death, he will be secretary. So, and we put that to vote, so it's official. It's in the bylaws now, so nobody else can ever be secretary. Chris, go ahead and tell us about when you started and if there's anything interesting about how you started. Excellent. Well, thank you. A really good story. A lot of us didn't even know. So, do appreciate it. Uh, I think had I not changed Mike's name, he probably would have still been having uh, the old call letters on his name there. I know it's still his email address. And speaking of email addresses, I mentioned to Cliff and some of the other people here that if you have a 7300 and you wanted to get information and advice about stuff, everybody who joins this club gets an email forwarder where it keeps it so that you can receive email at your call sign at W6SFM. So, for example, Tom, you actually have an email address of WA9CW at W6SFM.com. Now, of course, if you respond to that email, if someone sends it to you, it's going to put your return address as your actual address since it's coming out of your email program. But if you just want to receive email anonymously, you can have your call letter at W6SFM. So the reason I mention it is because if any of you guys want to talk to each other, there's the members list that's on the website. And you can always go to that members list if you want to communicate with any individual person. You don't have to know their personal email. You could just simply go there, look up their call letter if you know their name, and send them an email to their call at W6SFM.com. And you guys will be able to communicate with each other that way. That's something that makes life real easy for you. So if you know Cliff's new call here and you want to we'll announce him as a member. Chris is obviously on the board. John is on the board as vice president, and the two of them. Again, I'll mention Cliff put his application in for membership either today or yesterday, and so the board needs to approve that so that we can get Cliff on as a member. I see John shaking his head no, so that's one no, and then you're a yes, I'm sure, right? So okay, he's thinking about it. All right, so I say it's pretty official. We can say thumbs up, John. Cliff can join us in our group. Yeah, give me a thumbs up. All right, well that's two. So John never gave. Oh, okay. I was gonna say John never gave thumbs up, so I was almost gonna deny it, but Chris did say yes, so we're good. There you go, Cliff. So welcome to the group, Cliff. He's sending you an invitation, or we'll be sending out to the members an introduction. Cliff is here locally. He's in. You're Citrus Heights, right, Cliff? Is that what it is? Oh, Roseville. Okay, that's right. I'm sorry. West Roseville. So we'll be sending out an introduction for Cliff, and then also a little information email that pretty much discusses everything that we've talked about so far on this meeting. And then for those who don't know who I am, since it says W6SFM, SFMARC, that's only because I'm hosting the meeting. I'm Mike N6MQL, November 6th, Mexico, Quebec, Lima, and I've been a member of this club for about a year and a half. And I just took the CW class. Just took the CW class this year, and I think I passed it, but I'm not sure yet. And yeah, so and they just voted me president this year. It's amazing how much can get done in a year. But so I'm president. In any case, my story would be one that's a horrible story, actually, especially for somebody who teaches a CW class. I think when I was 12 or something like that, I decided I wanted to learn Morse code because there was a ham radio operator up the street from me, and he had a big Yagi on a tower. And I went over to his house, and he had a big radio. But then again, back then all radios were big. But no, he had a Henry 2K amplifier with his big whatever it was Kenwood radio, and his tower with his 4-element Yagi. And I knocked on his door and I asked him if I could come in and see his station, and he said, yeah. I had been into electronics since I was about 5, and I used to repair amplifiers and stuff like that since I was about 7 or 8. So I've been doing that kind of stuff for a long time, but I didn't have a license. And he told me, of course, like Chris said, you have to have a you have to have a CW ability of 5 words a minute. And so I went to the library and I took out a book on Morse code, and basically I read the book, uh, read the dots and the dashes, and I memorized them all. An A was a dot dash, a B was a dash dot dot dot. So that's how I learned Morse code. I never even heard Morse code until I actually um, I never heard Morse code until I actually went to take my novice test. There was a group at Lockheed Martin, and they offered a novice class, not the novice code, but just the written portion of the test. And it was like I think it was a once a week for 4 weeks or something like that. I remember it being 4 or 5 classes. I think it was spread across 4 or 5 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And I would go to the class, but I couldn't drive, so my mom would drive me over to Lockheed Martin, and uh, I would go take the class, and then I would have to wait for her to come pick me up. And after the class, I would hang out with all the guys from Lockheed Martin who ran the class, and I'd get to go into the little radio room and poke around the radio room and look at stuff. And eventually, what happened was uh, they kind of took me under their wing, and they let me be part of their group. And then once I took my novice exam over there, they were the first VEs. They were the first VEC, but they were the first VEs in California. And I took my examination with them, and after I passed that, uh, I instantly became an unofficial official member. Now, it wasn't like a radio club in the sense that like N6NA or SFMARC. It was the Lockheed Amateur Radio Club, but it was the Lockheed Employees Amateur Radio Club. So you had to be an employee of Lockheed or the Skunk Works program or Lockheed Martin in order to join the club, because it was their recreational club for the Lockheed employees. But they let me in, and not one of them talked into a microphone, except maybe 2 meters. There were a few guys that had 2 meter radios in their car, and when they were shuffling about, they would talk on 2 meters. But otherwise, it was all CW. Most of the guys were all ex-military. They were rocket scientists. I mean, honestly, it's like I literally knew rocket scientists and people that were all developing things like the SR-71. And as a matter of fact, they were developing at the time, they were actually developing the stealth fighter and stealth bomber. That the program was just getting going right about that time. And without giving me any real top secret information, they would say to me on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, look in the sky in that direction up there, and you know, you'll see something. So, I'd poke my head out the window at 9 o'clock, and you couldn't hear a darn thing, but there was a big black triangle floating through the sky. So that was kind of exciting to see as a 13-year-old. And so I was a member of their group for the longest time, and they did everything with me as far as helping me to set up an antenna. I had a really nice antenna on the roof. It was a 5/8 ground plane, but it was for 11 meters. And they came over to the house and they ripped down my 11-meter antenna, and they put up a fan dipole with the mast that I had, and cranked that thing up like 50 feet in the air, tarred it down to the roof, with guide wire tower, and a nice little Yaesu radio and all kinds of key. But I'll always treasure it because of the
some of the dots and dashes don't compute to what I know in Japanese. Not the way we communicate with JA stations now. They're obvious system also, which I will never understand. In the operator's manual, in the ARRL operator's manual, alphabet, but a bunch interesting to me. But then, the rest of it I already covered here. You had the modulated CW tone with the one transmitter, and then the other one they used for CW, although they could use AM, but it probably was not very effective at that time at those distances.
You know how they did that TW, modulated TW, don't you, John?
It wasn't.
There
It wasn't.
had something called a shopper wheel.
Well, no. What they used to continuous tone
Oh, okay.
as they went in run, because it was such an important thing. They didn't, they wanted two transmitters, I guess, for redundancy, reliability. That, and when the tone went off, they knew that the bomb had been dropped. So it was just a steady tone.
Right, that's what the shopper wheel does. It breaks actually break the RF path at an 800 rate is that they wanted to modulate that. And it covered a wide frequency range. They did that for emergency purposes, so to playing with people would hear it all over the band.
Ah, wide band.
Yeah, definitely wide band.
And let's see, the nodes and the president being notified, and then these early inverters too. I don't know, some of you more mature people remember the vibrator car radios we had in the 50s and early 60s. They went to they actually had, for the RF front end, they had tubes that worked on 12-volt plate voltage, believe it or not. And that was the RF section and the I section. And then the audio was theirs. That's why they called them hybrids. But before that, they just had the vibrator, that would hum, and it would just chop up the AC, make pulsating DC out of DC, and run it to the transformer, and then have a vacuum tube rectifier and filtering, and come out with 500 volts plate, 300 volts, whatever it was. So it was pretty much like a cable radio of the day, except for the power supply that jumped through a lot of hoops to get that plate voltage. So that's about it.
Bad for an April Fool's article.
Okay, this is Erez in Folsom, KM6TVV. I built a portable kit, or a go box, where everything had to be small and compact. So this is not your best paddle by any stretch of the imagination, but it's only $30 and it's really, really small. And it comes from a website called electronicsusa.com, $30. And the key has no adjustments. There are just two flexible levers here. And you can remove the base. And put an alternate base on it. And this base has a Velcro on it that you can put around some objects, such as your leg. So this works really nice for a field day. And today I was sitting outside in my backyard at 100 plus degrees with this on my leg and had two very long and fun QSOs using just this. So again, there is no adjustment. It's just flexible and it moves a little bit if it's attached to the leg, but it works. It's very, very compact and it fits in the space that I have available for this Go box. So just wanted to show it. KM6 TVV. Back to you, Mike.
Phil, KD6RM. Are you getting my audio? Audio's coming through okay?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Typically, you get a yellow highlight around the pattern when you're talking. In any event, KD6RM, I actually have been around the ham bands for a while, first licensed in 1959. So I am a bit of a fossil. Aside from that, I like to piddle a little bit with antennas, play with a few circuits, practically everything I home built stuff, and that pretty much is the story. Did we lose our fearless leader?
He's looking at something, yeah.
Unscripted. Well, it was a requirement to become a novice, if you'll recall, way back when. The only way you could get a license was to go through basically go through the novice program. And in those days, it was a much more technical hobby, a much more hands-on hobby, a much more gentlemanly hobby, in my opinion. It's very interesting and exciting stuff. Almost exactly. It's almost exactly, there's a small phenomenal fee. Mike, along those lines, I have something I want to tell everyone. Remember my end-fed quarter wavelength stub matching section? I have discovered that with adding another tap, or worst case two, you can have an 80-meter antenna that's less than 2-to-1 across the entire 80-meter band.
Where does that tap actually go?
They're adjacent to the one that I already have in place. But currently that 80-meter element has 180 kilohertz bandwidth.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge.
But the way that matching section works, by changing the tap position, it changes the resonant frequency and has very little effect on the resulting bandwidth. So with 2 taps, you can come damn close to doing the entire band. With 3 taps, you can do the whole band. And I use a remote antenna switch.
Okay, so the taps are not used simultaneously, they're switched.
No, you just pick one of the 3 depending upon where you are in the band.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's basically your quarter wave stub match hitting into different spots within
different spots for the tap. Absolutely.
Right, excellent. That's clever idea. It's like an automatic antenna tuner, just with a little switch remoted. What a great idea! And I guess for the poor man that doesn't have the switch, you can have 3 pieces of coax out there and just switch one.
They have to be short pieces of coax, otherwise coaxes act as other stubs.
Right. Yeah, they would react, wouldn't they? So now, what if it's a shorted half wave or shorted quarter wave? Then it would look like an open, though. Would it still affect it?
I don't understand the question.
If it was a shorted quarter wave stub match, does it not show as an open?
It's not. It's never a shorted stub. It's a tapped stub.
No, I know. I'm saying if you made it so that you switched the coax and you shorted it out on the other end, would the stub look like an open?
You'd have some wild gyrations, which I've not explored.
Okay. All right. Well, then you'll report on that next month. No, that's a good find, though. It's interesting. So you just have the taps are what, like 6 or 8 inch pieces of wire that are going up the antenna.
It taps right into the coax, the shield and the center conductor, but they'll be at probably 18 inches apart.
Hmm.
So you could have 1, 2, 3, and pretty much cover the entire 80-meter band. It's a great way to get 80 meters covered with one antenna, stay under 2-to-1.
Now, I'm not sure about this. Maybe you can explain. Doesn't the CW portion end at about 3,600? I mean, what else is up there?
3,600.
Yeah. So what else is up there, Phil? I mean, I don't see why you
anything above
that tap in.
36.
The other 80% of the world there, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
you're talking about.
Right. See, yeah.
You're talking about.
My VFO has never turned that far above 3,600. So, I guess, yeah.
You do have the option.
Right.
Okay.
So, Carol, are you talking about 4 megs when you do this?
Yeah. You go from 3.5 all the way to 4.
Yeah. So that's 80 and 75.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. It would be a nice design for somebody who wants a 80-meter antenna in a short length, but and that's something that Cliff was actually talking about needing for his resonance. That resonance antenna would be good for doing an end-fed wire going to the back of his backyard. He'd be able to work the entire 80-meter band with it. Do you remember what the length is on the 80-meter antenna?
It's about 130 feet for the radiating element.
Okay, so it's still 130 feet even with the quarter wave tap.
Well, you can, there's a lot of ways to get there. You can resonate. I don't know what would happen to the bandwidth as you start to load that element.
Right.
You'd have to do some experimenting, but I imagine you could still come pretty darn close.
Yeah, you don't need anything for a 160.
Well, if you
That'd be
There's no reason it wouldn't work.
I don't see why not.
well, if you have a balloon in the air, or you can throw a lasso around the moon, maybe you can work 160. I don't
No, I
have
had to
any.
do it a quarter wave.
Mike,
Yeah.
I actually saw a YouTube last week. This guy in France had a drone, and that drone had a Zeppelin antenna on it. He went up like 100 meters and was making all kinds of contacts, QRP on, I think, like 80 meters.
Do you
So,
recall
yeah, people do.
how thick the wire was that he was pulling up?
Pardon me?
Do you recall how thick the wire was that he was pulling?
Oh, it was like a angel hair, very
Yeah.
thin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
And
makes
a
sense.
very, very strong drone with a battery that would be good for, like 40 minutes. Because, you don't want to have it up there, have the wind pick up, and then just pull it away. But
That's
he
a
knew
lot
what
of
he was doing.
drone.
Yeah, I mean, what would be a great idea too is fly that drone
Yeah.
up and land it on top of a building, and then you just have a sloper antenna going up to the building. And when you're ready to pack up, you just fly the drone back down again, pack your antenna up.
Yeah,
Well,
there you go.
his point was that he went out into like the wilderness in France, to the wild areas where he was away from outlets, away from buildings, and the only thing he had to watch out for is occasional hikers coming by, and the wind, of course. But he was showing it. It's very, very interesting. Angel
All you
fin
need's a
here,
kite.
QRP, less than 10 watts.
Oh,
Yeah, a kite would work, and that makes sense. Low power backpacking type of stuff. So there you go, Dave. When you go up on Soda, you bring your drone with you and get an extra 60 feet on your drone. Or I guess in the case of the 160 meter, you have to bring about 200 or 300 feet. So, all right. Let's see. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to show the group? I didn't hear anybody else mention it, but does anybody have any items that they were interested in displaying? Go ahead and unmute yourself and let me know. On my end, I don't know what's going on with my internet, but everything is frozen except for Phil. So, all right. Well, I did have some stuff here that I was curious
Oh.
to see. Yeah.
field day. You're going to talk about that?
No,
We do-
actually, what I wanted to do is mention Field Day. As you know, Field Day is coming up here on the third weekend of this month. I guess we're already there, aren't we?
No, it's the fourth weekend, isn't it? You sure?
Fourth weekend, I'm sorry. So what is that, the 20, what, Chris?
27, 28.
27, 28. So Field Day is 27, 28. Normally we go to the church. Park ourselves there starting at about 9 in the morning-ish and get everything set up. And then once we get set up, we get on the air by 11 a.m. and we operate until Sunday morning at 11 a.m. and then have a little pack-up session. We're usually out of there by noon on Sunday. So typically speaking, we ask everybody to show up on Saturday morning because, of course, we want to have everybody there to help set up. We generally have a vertical antenna that covers 40 and up, and then we have a dipole we put in the tree, and that's our 80 meter and up antenna. But I think this year we're probably going to end up with one station regardless. So the question really is, of those who are here now, I'm kind of curious to know, and if you'll unmute yourself and let me know, because everybody, again, is frozen for some reason in my view, probably because probably because my internet has become so slow. But I'm interested to know, of the people that are here, who thinks that they would be interested in going to a field day with us. Anybody planning to participate with a field day in person at the end of this month?
Mike, is the ARRL encouraging, outside, with with the background of the COVID virus? I mean, what I mean by this is I'm 67. I have a pacemaker. Although I consider myself in really good health, I'm in the at-risk category. I have a lot of ham friends who are cancer survivors and stuff like that. They would love to, but it's like we got wives and kids and bills and
Sure.
stuff. So, what is the official or unofficial word about it?
I don't know that they actually made a statement whether they encourage or discourage, but I don't want anybody obviously to feel uncomfortable or at risk. So that's why I'm bringing this up, because I want to know what your feelings are, and if you feel like you would be at risk and it's something that you think that you want to skip this year, or completely understand. Mike, are you saying that as well? I see your hand up. You want to speak?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same category. High risk due to some medical conditions and age and so forth.
Understood.
So I'm going to be operating independently up in Dutch Flat.
Okay. Are you?
But you should probably mention. I'm not sure you're going to that they changed the rules.
Yeah.
That club members can add their points. So.
Yeah,
I certainly intend to do that.
Right.
Okay, so that was my next statement that I was going to make, and that is the ARRL did put out a notification that said that they're making a temporary change to the rules this year to accommodate those who don't want to operate in a field day operations with other people, rather stay in their home stations and operate under the club point structure. And this is similar to the California QC.
But doesn't that lead to an interesting question?
Please go ahead, Phil.
The question is, how do you handle dupes?
Right. Carol, do you know if the call signs that you are supposed to use are your independent call sign or the call sign of the club? I didn't actually read the regulation on that.
Yeah, everyone's supposed to use their own call sign. I don't know exactly if there's going to be any really duplicate discounts or anything. It's just going to aggregate everybody's score pretty much.
Right.
Club.
So I believe that sounds correct. And just like the the California QSO Party contest, where the Contest Journal group has said that they make it so that everybody operates under their own call sign, and then they turn their logs in and all the points are added up under the group that they are applying under. So the dupes wouldn't actually be dupes because you would be working them independently as your call sign, as opposed to working them as W6SFM. So there might be a W6SFM station where some of the members decide they want to do a field day in person, and then your call would be independent from your home station.
Or we could do it. Yeah, we could do it like we do with Bug Roundup. Everybody signs up for a turn if you want to do it that way.
We could do it that way as well if that was something that everybody was interested in. We could certainly where we have people who want to work a shift as SFM. We could certainly do a virtual field day. We could even Zoom the whole field day, and people when they go on air can even be on Zoom to chat with each other, that sort of thing. but that's an option as well. I think that I'm going to host a field day operation, if not at
You,
church. I will host it at my place here in my driveway. So those of you who are not in a high risk group or not concerned about becoming ill, you're welcome to come to my place and operate, or at the church if we get permission and we have enough people. Clearly, if there's only 2 people or 3 people that want to do this in person, we'll take it over to my place. There's no sense in having to go over to the church when we can set up a table and generate.
Mike,
Yeah, go ahead, Art.
Mike, if I could, it seems like as a club, as ham radio operators, maybe we should spend the next couple of days researching it a little more, because at the River City Arts meeting on Tuesday night, a lot of information was given to me, and I had the impression that you kind of register with your club before you get on the air and get points for fielding. You know,
Yeah,
like
you
an
may.
River City Arts, I would sign on like online, tell them what I was going to do, and perhaps there might be a requirement with W6SFM also. Do we have the specific rules about it?
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Art. That's good information, and that's definitely something that we should look into, because clearly, if we're going to operate in that form and fashion, we should know the rules and understand what is required of us before we jump into it. So
sure.
I'll go ahead and do that. And of course, if anybody else wants to independently do any research, you're more than welcome to. Please email me at the admin at W6SFM if you have information. Obviously, the rules are posted in the ARRL website, and those things can be, let's see here. So, right, when you send in logs. So, I'll investigate that, because, like every year, I always print out all the rules and regulations from the ARRL, and I go ahead and make sure that we're in compliance. But being a new rule, a temporary rule here, I'll investigate that as well. But if anybody wants to operate as W6SFM or as your own call sign, providing that's how it works, and we can sign you up, I'm more than happy to have each and every one of you turn your logs in as helping W6SFM. That'd be great. Mike, you mentioned that you're going to be out of town doing your operating. You're not going as another group as you have in the past, are you? Are you operating for that FRG, I think it was, or are you considering doing that for W6SFM?
No, I'm going COVID solo
Yep,
at a cabin.
Okay, all right. Oh, this is your winter field day cabin?
Yeah, same place, my sister-in-law and brother's place up in Dutch Flat.
Very nice. Good. So, all right, if you're going solo and
yeah.
you want to accumulate your score with ours, more than welcome to do so. We'll make sure that if there's something that we have to sign up to get you involved as part of our group, then we'll definitely throw your call sign in there so that your log is counted along with ours. I'm sure that having that height above ground will do really well for you, and obviously for the club as well. It'll be interesting because this will be the first year that we're not a two-way station. Does anybody actually read the ARRL temporary rule on that? I'm wondering if they indicate, I forgot, do they indicate whether you have to be on emergency power as a home station?
You can be 1D. You can use a home station.
Oh, right. And then they said they were going to allow counting points between 1D stations.
Yeah, that's what I remember reading.
Yeah, I read it briefly, but not enough to really have a good grasp. I guess I should have been a little more prepared for that tonight. But with everything been going on, I had totally forgot that it's just creeping up on us so fast now. But
Yeah.
I,
No, I won't be there either. I'm going to be operating from here because I can't.
no, I
I'm
don't
going
want
to
you to
be
risk
stuck here
Patty.
for about 100 days. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want Patty to be at risk. That's for sure. We all understand.
Oh no, she's not. She's supposed to be back today, but she's not. So she got some minor issues to recover. With that. Anyway, she'll be home eventually, but I just got to lay really low.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing we want to do to risk Patty's health. We know that she's been going through what she's been going through, and that would be bad for you to come back with anything, even if you were asymptomatic of something that she could have an issue with, and we certainly don't want that. So, of course, we don't want that for anybody.
But I'll be here in spirit. So
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll take your points too, Chris. You know, anybody who operates at home or from a remote station like Mike, we're happy to accept your logs as part of the W6SFM. We'd actually appreciate that you do that because, you know, it's in the good spirit of Field Day and working with the W6SFM. Is there anybody here that thinks that they might consider doing in person at my location? Okay, so we'll, you can always email me if you want to discuss it further. Like I said, you can either send to N6MQL or to admin at W6SFM if you have an interest in doing that. And we'll, of course, discuss what's going to happen because really it hasn't even been set up yet. Again, I haven't heard back from the church yet. Session hasn't made their decision on who and when people will be able to come back. And then whether that happens or not will also determine whether we're going to set up a table here. If we do a table here, you know, we're outside. It probably wouldn't be as risky for those people who don't feel like they're in a high risk group. And of course, the table's 6 feet long. So if you wanted to sit on the complete other end of the table or 10 feet away in a chair, that's fine too. You know, we have Clorox wipes. We can wipe the keys down. So, you know, you don't have to worry about touching a key somebody else's touched, that sort of thing. So we'll keep you protected if you're here. But I think that it could work. Of course, if there's only two of us, we'll figure that out too. I know there's at least one other person who's interested in conducting an in-person field day, and they, you know, they would be okay coming over to my place. Cliff, of course, you're welcome to come over here. I know you've been over here, so if you're interested, of course, you could stop by and see what it's all about, that sort of thing. Regardless, if we do a W6SFM station setup outside, I have generator power, so if I work as a 1D station by myself, I can always use the station equipment here as opposed to that we put out on the field day location. So if it's just me alone for some reason and other people want to just come and go, they're welcome to do that. Maybe I'll just use my home station on generator power with a portable antenna setup. So that's something to consider. Otherwise, I think we've pretty well covered everything that, let's see here. One rule kept Class D stations from contacting their Class D home on commercial power. It's a new rule.
okay,
Announced that point.
I guess you talked about the bug roundup. I'll listen to a meeting later and catch up on that.
I thought we covered that last meeting, did we not?
Well, I didn't know if you got to the results yet.
Oh, you know what? I may not have. Some of you, I haven't got anybody who's emailed me with any questions or concerns regarding the newsletter, but you'll probably notice that there hasn't been a newsletter for the last 2 months, whereas we normally have a newsletter that comes out every month just after the meeting, usually the weekend after the meeting. The reason for that is because being that we're on a Zoom meeting, just like Tom being in the East Coast, I know it's late for you, Tom, but anybody who is in the world that has a computer, which is 99.999% of you and probably 100% of our members, has the opportunity to join this meeting. And I haven't printed a newsletter for the last 2 or 3 months because I figured everything that we do is covered in this meeting, and this meeting is not exclusive to people who are local. So I
No,
really didn't feel like
pretty
it
good.
was necessary to put out a newsletter of everything that anybody could have already seen or participated in. So as soon as we go back to a in-person meeting and there is no Zoom, although I'm also considering potentially setting up the Zoom so that those of you who are out of state, instead of just watching it live on YouTube, we may actually switch over to a Zoom format where you'll be able to participate in the meetings as opposed to just watching them live. And
I think it'd be pretty cool. I think it'd be a
yeah,
great idea.
so Tom, you'll be encouraged to do that if you're interested in attending these meetings. You'll be able to get on here with us every first Thursday of the month. And currently, we're paying for the Zoom because we have over 1 hour of meeting, and more than 4 people, I believe, is when you start paying. So currently, we have a
Is it
subscription.
$15 a month?
No,
No.
it's like $25 a month. So
25 a month. Ooh.
something like that. It's 19 or 25, somewhere.
Yeah.
But
Now, I have a Zoom account, and I believe it's like $14 or something a month.
is it
But
14?
You
Okay.
may have some, but you may have some other add-ons that I don't have with the recording.
You could be
and
right.
some
It
of
may
those
be.
things.
You may be right. It may be $14 a month. I'm not sure. I know it's
You
something.
can-
I know it's in the $15 to $25 range. I know we have like 3 gigabytes of storage because the concept originally was we'd be able to store everything to the cloud and then uplink that to the YouTube page so that these meetings could be, instead of being broadcasted live, they could be in high quality video uplinked to the YouTube. Tom and another Tom down in Los Angeles, and possibly
And maybe Steve. Yeah.
and possibly Steve up in Washington, and maybe Rick down in LA. So we have 10 people come on. I always encourage a good percent. Everybody in that room is on camera. I put behind me the monitor. That would be displaying the Zoom in the room, could be seeing who's on Zoom and interacting with them as if they were in the room. And then, of course, I would
Yeah, I
Zoom. Of course, the website will be updated to let you know. And then we'll talk about this field day information as soon as I have more. Feel free to email me if you have any questions or concerns. Anybody have anything final before I say goodnight and end the broadcast?
One question, Mike.
Yes.
I've got a buddy who spent his time in the Coast Guard as a maritime radio operator,
Yes.
Super Diddy. And I offered to have him spend some time during our field day event over here running some CW. He used to bug in the Coast Guard. I wonder if you might be available to kind of help me tune up my bug for his use.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. Of course, that means that if you're not expecting me to do it remotely, you will have to see me in person and risk that Rona.
Do you have cooties?
I don't know. I think I'm probably asymptomatic because, I haven't caught anything yet. And but then again, I haven't made anybody in my family ill, so I'm suspecting I am not carrying it. But I can't guarantee you, Phil.
Gotcha.
But I'm
Okay.
happy to do that. And if you want to set it down on the table and walk away, I'll tune it all up for you and wipe it down with a Clorox wipe for you.
Okay.
I'll even clean the contacts,
What a guy.
Wow.
and I'll do that for free.
You're the man.
Yeah, it's just getting it back that costs you the money.
Use one of those good crisp $2 bills to clean those contacts with.
Yeah, that does work well. I usually
Good.
take a standard 40 bond or 20 bond paper and give it a little lick and run it through there. It works pretty well. But I do have some real contact cleaner for it if I need to. What I normally do if it's in bad shape is I pull the contact out completely and I have a silicone chrome polish that works great, and it leaves a layer of silicone on there so that it won't oxidize back up again. And it usually lasts about 3 or 4 years before you need to even clean those contacts again. It's called Blue Magic. Let me see, I think I have it within hand's reach. Yeah. Looks like this. Oh, you can't see it because it's blue. There we go.
Okay.
Basically, you can get this at your auto parts store. It's like chrome bumper polish called Blue Magic. And I tell you, this will clean any bug into just a super fantastic shine. And it will leave a layer of silicone over all of the chrome and not allow it to oxidize for a long time. And it doesn't leave.
It looks like you've got about a 30-year supply there.
Yeah.
I've actually been through 2 of these already doing bugs. So it goes pretty fast. The one thing about it is if you do use it, you want to do a 2-stage polish. So the first thing you do is put this onto a napkin or a paper towel, and then take your part and rub your part on the paper towel. And what you're going to see is all the oxidation comes off as black gunk. And then once you've done that, then bring it over to like a microfiber towel, and then hit it on the microfiber towel, and that'll polish it up to a shine that you've never seen in your life. It's pretty amazing. And if you take your entire bug apart, piece by piece, I do it to the screw, to all the pieces on the bug, not just the shiny parts, but even the stainless steel screws. I pull those out and I shine the heads of the stainless steel screws. I even take the paper towel and I thread the screw into the paper towel, and the paper towel becomes threaded. And then once I thread that in there, and then I squeeze real hard on the paper towel, and then I unthread it through the paper towel, and it cleans everything out of the threading. And then when I'm done with that, I shoot it with a little bit of silicone-based WD-40, which removes any grease. Probably actually removes the silicone too, but it doesn't matter because it's a screw and you want that contact to be in there. So when the screws are finished, they're all shiny and polished too. So as you can imagine, that's a lot of work. It takes me a good day to go through just one bug, maybe 2 days. And by the time I'm done, though, you'll have 100 dits going without any crackling between any dit at all. For that full 100 dits.
I'll send you an email. We'll schedule something.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I don't know that I'll polish up your key like that for you, but
Maybe just a contact.
I mean, if you really needed it completely torn apart and redone, I could do it if you really needed it. It wouldn't be.
After a sales job like that, Mike, you ought to do it just to owe up to your image.
No, there's been plenty of people in this club that have had me rework their bugs for them. So if you want examples, I'll give you some. I'll give you some people that can give you a review, and then you'll be the first paying customer.
Yeah, gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, but they do come out pretty fantastic. And again, it's just like $7 for that jar of polish there, Tom. You can pick it up at the Kragen or whatever auto store you.
I think I've seen it. I'm gonna give that a try. I've got it. I don't have a lot of bugs, but I got about 5 or 6. I'm a 100% bug user on the air.
Yeah,
I did make the sideband contact this year.
What?
A guy asked.
All right, I'm closing this window.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want that to go on the YouTube anyway. I made a sideband contact this year. A guy sent me an email from somewhere, was looking for somebody in my county. He was a county hunter, and he needed like 3 more counties or something like that in Wisconsin or something. And so he asked me if I could do a CW contact. Also, I said, Well, that was kind of what I had in mind. I said, I had a mic because I had a little Tech Scout, and I found the mic. It's my first sideband taken over 20 years. So I've been 100% CW guy for, for a good while. And I've been bugged install most of that entire time too.
Yeah, I think since I started as an amateur radio operator, I could count on two hands all my sideband contacts. I had one friend who moved out of town, and he used to like to talk on sideband. So, I think I talked to him 5 or 10 times on sideband, and that's about it. Otherwise, I do have a microphone, but it hasn't been plugged into the radio for at least 16 years.
Oh yeah, you have a 2-meter AT, right?
Oh, I do. I actually bought one of those Bowfangs. You know what it was? Is I could not believe the price of the radio being $22. I was so excited about being so cheap. I went ahead and purchased one. I've used it twice now too. So, but that doesn't count as sideband, of course. But I do have one of those Bowfang 2-meter 440 jobs, and I even bought an antenna for it on Amazon so that I could try to get it to work a little better. And I bought 2 or 3 antennas, and I put them on the antenna analyzer, and I could not find one of them that had under like a 3.5 to 1 SWR. So I basically threw them all away, or returned them to Amazon, really. But the Bowfang antenna, the little rubber duck antenna that came on it, that thing is like a 1.8 to 1 SWR on 2 meters, and it was like a 1.3 to 1 on 440. So it actually had really good tuning. Of course, it's a tiny little fiberglass with coil around it, so it's not exactly the best antenna. Oh, okay, I can get that for you. It's not exactly the best antenna, but it at least is more resonant than any of the other antennas. I even got I think it was a diamond antenna or something, where it was telescopic. I figured, okay, well, this thing is telescopic, so I'll be able to pull it out and I'll mark it where it's tuned perfect. So I got the analyzer, I put it on the thing, and there was nowhere within the range of the antenna that I could extend it or contract it down to get it tuned properly for 2 meters. 440, it worked okay. But 2 meters, it never got tuned properly. So that was the end of that antenna too. When I do the swap meets and the presentations for the Rig Expert analyzers, the one thing that I am doing, but at the same time kind of regret, is taking out that AA600 and having people with their little walkie-talkie antennas put it on the analyzer and see how bad their antennas actually are. They always walk away sad and disappointed that their little floppy antenna is got an 8 to 1 SWR on it. But I always reassure them, don't worry, that thing is sitting right next to your waist over there as it's clipped on your belt and you're talking on your microphone. So, even if it did work, you're just getting all that RF absorbed up into your body anyway. So, you get what you get. It is what it is. But it's kind of fun to put those things on the analyzer and see how bad they really are. So I was surprised with the Bowfang that it actually had the best resonance of all the antennas that I purchased and used. So it's a bit surprising, but anyhow, thank you for that, Phil. Let me know when you send me an email, and we'll get you scheduled to do that. If you want, I could do that on field day, and you can come on over and operate field day while I work on your bug.
You're a generous man, Mike.
Yeah, if I can use that.
I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank
Please.
you all. Hope you have a pleasant evening. Everyone stay healthy, and we'll take it from there.
All right, Phil. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll see you later, I'm sure, and I'll look for your email.
Hey, Bill.
All right. So I think we'll close it up for the night. Does anybody else have anything else they want to mention or ask? All right. It did. All right, we'll see you later, Chris. Okay,
Bye.
it looks like Mike LQ is going to be the. Yeah, he's still there. He's going to be the last
Hey,
one.
Mike.
Yeah.
LQ.
Yeah,
You
he's
still
still
here?
there. He's still
I
there.
just got a email. Remember Alan Tanner, WB6THE from years ago?
Yeah.
Yep, he's still kicking.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. Anyway, good to hear from him. So I still remember the few day of 68. Yeah, don't want to repeat that one.
Is that
All
the
right, guys,
year
good
that
night.
you dropped the screwdriver into the radio?
Well, the antenna got shorted out, that's for sure. And it didn't, the ICO 723 didn't like it, or the 720 blew that thing up.
Yeah.
Now get the beginning, yeah.
Mm.
But
All right.
we did get on the air. All right. Good night, guys.
All right, Chris. Good night. Tom, thank you. I know it's really late for you, but it's good to see you here, and hopefully we'll.
Good. Yeah, I enjoyed meeting you guys, and yeah. And
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I want to talk to you again. Yes, pleasure to meet all of you. I'd like to talk to you more about your CW class too. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart. I've been doing that for a long, long time, and that's why I got involved with CW Ops doing it. But I used to do it in Baton Rouge too for years when there was nothing else. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how you lead your class as well. Might get some good ideas.
I'll tell you this: my class, I wrote an outline for the class so that I could distribute it to other people to teach their class in a similar fashion. So there is an outline for the class, but I have to tell you that the class changes every single class because
Sure, I know.
Yeah, the way I run the class is off of the feedback of the people, questions that they ask, and information that comes to my head as I'm talking about it. So the class is really more than a CW class. It actually encompasses radio transmissions and how side tones are made, what an offset is, DSP, DSP, and how to properly operate a DSP radio in a fashion that would give you the best noise reduction possible on pretty much any radio that uses SDR or DSP. All of those kind of things. Propagation we've covered in the classes. So it's way more than just CW. But there is a great foundation for CW in the class. One of the first things that I do at the beginning of the class is I instruct them on how to hold the key properly and how to move their wrist properly. And this is generally the most difficult part of the class for the people because that movement of your wrist is the most important thing to learn so that later on when you're sending code, you can operate for hours and hours without ever becoming tired. So I talk about the Japanese style, the European style, and the two American styles of sending Morse code and where your elbow goes on the table. And in all cases, the wrist movement, if done properly, is very similar. So if I take that key, if it'll even show up here, the wrist movement is, assuming that my elbow is on the table. Let me see if I can get it so it won't do that anymore. I've got like an invisible, talk about being transparent. So elbow on the table, and the key is being held as you normally would, 2 fingers on the side, thumb on the side, middle finger on the side, forefinger at the end of the key there, elbow on the table. And the movement that I teach is before you send a character, the elbow stays in the same place, the wrist goes up, and then the movement of the wrist is a drop into the key. So this is the proper movement, except your elbow shouldn't disappear. And if it didn't disappear, here we go. You'll see that if you were to hold a line where my elbow is, you see my wrist is doing all of the movement, my elbow doesn't move. And my arm up and down, all of the movement is being done by my wrist. So it's porpoising, and of course now I know that I'll have to do Zoom meetings for the class without a background. But yeah, all of the movement of the key is being done in the wrist. So this is the proper movement for sending. And I demonstrate when the key is on the table that I can, I mean, that's what you'd be hearing. You can kind of hear it now, but it's, now it's obviously not, I was exaggerating the movement before, but I can continue sending that same dit. I haven't stopped since I started saying that. It may just look like I'm shaking my wrist around, but I'm actually porpoising it up and down. And I'm sending a continuous string of and you can hear it as and see it as I'm doing it.
And you're doing it left-handed.
And I'm doing it left-handed. I mean, you can, of course, do it right-handed. And again, if you look at my elbow has not moved once.
With your left foot.
So there is no glass elbow with this method because you're always porpoising the wrist in such a fashion that the drop is coming from the wrist and not from the elbow. So you never destroy your elbow with CW. And with that method, like I said, you have a constant ability to send 20, 30 word a minute. Well, I wouldn't say 30, but so it's obviously as fast as the key will allow you, which this particular key being an old crummy Japanese J38 from CalRad, I could probably do about 18 words a minute on it before it starts collapsing its ability to even produce hits at that speed. However, if I were to take another key like a Bengali sculpture, which is a magnetic straight key, I could easily do 25 words a minute on those dits without any problem and never stop, and it would be a continuous stream of 25 word per minute dits. So that's part of the class and what I teach, and that's an important part of the class because it's necessary to be able to produce the code properly, because code is nothing more than a function of your brain's memory muscle. So if you have that memory muscle, and you're able to send the code, then instinctively you'll be able to receive it because you already understand. Your brain can form those characters. So if you can form Dida, then your brain certainly will take longer to decode it, but when you hear Dida, you will be able to hear it. And
I think I've kind of recently become a real fan of this, of sending for the students. I send